Excellencies, it's time to start. Thank you. It's good to see the room so full and lively, but it's time to start. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, on behalf of the Secretary General, I have the honor to declare open the 41st meeting of states parties to the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights. It's my privilege to address this meeting today, and I would like to extend a very warm welcome to all of you. The main purpose of this meeting is to elect one member of the Human Rights Committee to fill a vacancy for a term expiring on 31st of December 2026 in accordance with Articles 28 to 34 of the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights. But before you proceed with the election, I'd like to use the occasion to briefly present some developments of direct interest to you as representatives of states parties to the Covenant. Since the 40th meeting in May 2024, there remain 174 states parties to the Covenant and 116 states parties to the first optional protocol. I'm pleased to note that Zambia ratified the second optional protocol aiming at the abolition of the death penalty on 19th of December 2024, thus bringing the number of its states parties to 92. Although this high number of states parties to the Covenant and its optional protocols reflects the international community's continuing interest in advancing the goals and objectives of the Covenant, there is still a way to go towards the goal of universal ratification. States parties to the Covenant which have not already ratified these protocols are urged to consider doing so, and states which are not parties are urged to consider ratifying the Covenant itself. Despite the liquidity crisis, the committee successfully held its sessions in July and October 2024. In this regard, the committee held constructive dialogues with high-level delegations of 13 states parties from across the regions. It further adopted one list of issues and 10 lists of issues prior to reporting. As of today, there are 15 states parties reports pending consideration by the committee. I'd like to take this opportunity to urge those states parties that have received lists of issues prior to reporting but have not yet submitted replies to the committee to please do so. With regard to the work under its first optional protocol, the committee considered 40 drafts related to 403 communications as a result of a backlog reduction strategy, including a simplified format and grouped cases adopted at its 140th session in March 2024. Of these communications, 340 were decided on merits, so-called views, 20 were declared inadmissible, and 43 were discontinued. Regarding the communications decided on merits, the committee found violations in 338 of them. On the substance of the views, the committee adopted decisions including on jurisdictional immunity and the right of indigenous peoples to self-determination, separate and special penitentiary regimes, sexual violence against children, forced pregnancy, the impact of lack of birth registration, as well as jurisdiction determination in cases of immigration detention centers administered by a state in another state. As of today, some 980 communications are pending before the committee. Distinguished delegates, as to the nominations and election, I take this opportunity to recall that General Assembly Resolution 68/268 encourages states parties to nominate experts of high moral standing and recognized competence and experience in the field of human rights, in particular in the specific domain of the relevant treaty, in this case, civil and political rights. It also recommends states parties, as appropriate, to consider adopting national policies or processes with respect to the nomination of experts as candidates for human rights treaty bodies. Finally, General Assembly Resolution 68/268 encourages states parties in the election of treaty body experts to give due consideration, as stipulated in the relevant human rights instruments, to equitable geographical distribution, the representation of the different forms of civilization and the principal legal systems, balanced gender representation, and the participation of experts with disabilities in the membership of the human rights treaty bodies. I would strongly encourage you to elect members that will bring balance in every regard, as well as the highest level of competence in the field of civil and political rights. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, allow me now to turn to item 2 of the provisional agenda as contained in document CCPR/SP/98 and invite the distinguished representatives to proceed with the election of the chairperson of the meeting. A nomination has been received from the Republic of Bulgaria for Ambassador Lacherieva Stoeva, permanent representative of Bulgaria to the United Nations, to assume the role of chairperson for this meeting. If there are no other nominations, may I take it that the meeting wishes to elect Her Excellency Ms. Lachezara Stoeva, permanent representative of Bulgaria, as chairperson by acclamation? It is so decided. I kindly invite Her Excellency Ms. Lachezara Stoeva to take her seat on the podium as chairperson of this meeting. Thank you.
Good afternoon, colleagues. It is an honor and a great pleasure for me to chair this important meeting. I'm confident that with your support and thanks to the trust you placed in me, this meeting will carry out its mandate successfully under the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights. We shall now proceed to the adoption of the agenda as submitted by the Secretary General in document CCPR/SP/98. As you will note, the purpose of this meeting is to conduct a by-election to fill a casual vacancy arising from the resignation of a member of the Human Rights Committee for a term expiring on 31st December 2026. If there are no objections, may I consider that the meeting wishes to adopt the items listed on the provisional agenda as the agenda of this meeting? I see no objections. It is so decided. We shall now proceed to item 4 of the agenda. Under Rule 4 of the Rules of Procedure, the meeting shall elect 1 to 4 vice chairpersons from among the representatives of the states parties. I have been informed that Ms. Rachel De Guara from the Permanent Mission of Malta has been nominated by the Western European and other group of states. If there are no further nominations, I will take it that the meeting wishes to elect this candidate as vice chairperson. It is so decided. Before proceeding to the next item on the agenda, I wish to draw attention to Rules 2 and 3 of the Rules of Procedure contained in document CCPR/SP/2/Rev1. Rule 2 provides that the credentials of representatives and the names of members of a delegation shall be submitted to the Secretary General, if possible, not later than 1 week before the date fixed for the opening of the meeting, and that such credentials shall be issued by the heads of state or government or by the Minister of Foreign Affairs. Accordingly, in his note verbal of 6 January 2025, the Secretary General invites states parties to forward to him the credentials of their representatives. Delegations that have brought their credentials to this meeting should deliver those to the credentials desk. As the Secretary General is required under Rule 2 to report to the meeting on the credentials of the representatives, I have been informed that he has yet to receive proper credentials from a number of the states parties represented at this meeting. May I therefore suggest that in accordance with Rule 3, the representatives of those states parties should be entitled provisionally to participate in the meeting and urge them at the same time to ensure their credentials are submitted to the Secretary General as soon as possible. I see no objections. It is so decided. We shall now proceed to the elections. In accordance with item 5 of the agenda, this is an election in accordance with Articles 2834 of the 234 of the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights of one member of the Human Rights Committee to fill a vacancy for a term expiring on 31st December 2026. I wish to draw your attention to certain provisions contained in Article 30, 31, and 34 of the Covenant. Article 30, paragraph 4, provides that elections of the members of the committee shall be held at a meeting of the states parties to the present covenant convened by the Secretary General of the United Nations at the headquarters of the United Nations. At that meeting, for which 2/3 of the states parties to the present covenant shall constitute a quorum, the persons elected to the committee shall be those nominees who obtain the largest number of votes and an absolute majority of the votes of the representatives of states parties present and voting. Article 31 provides that the committee may not include more than one national of the same state. In the election of the committee, consideration shall be given to equitable geographical distribution of membership and to the representation of the different forms of civilization and of the principal legal systems. Article 34, paragraph 3, provides that a member of the committee elected to fill a vacancy declared in accordance with Article 33 shall hold office for the remainder of the term of the member who vacated the seat on the committee under the provisions of this article. In a note verbal dated 3rd October 2024, in accordance with Article 33, paragraph 2, and Article 34, paragraph 1 of the Covenant, the Secretary General declared the seat in question vacant and invited the states parties to the Covenant to submit their nomination for the purpose of filling this vacancy by 27th November 2024. In accordance with Article 34, Para 2 of the Covenant, the Secretary General transmitted to the states parties a list in alphabetical order of 8 persons thus nominated, including their biographical details in document CCPR/SP/99. By means of its note verbal dated 7 January 2025, the Permanent Mission of Madagascar to the United Nations informed of the withdrawal of the candidature of Ms. Hanitriania Belaluhi. Distinguished delegates, this means that as of today, there are 7 candidates for 1 vacancy. If there are no further nominations or withdrawals, we shall proceed with the election on the basis of these 7 candidates. I have been informed that Ms. Batanai Mango from the Permanent Mission of Zimbabwe, Mr. Peter Holly from the Permanent Mission of Slovakia, Ms. Fien Stevens from the Permanent Mission of Belgium, Mr. Shoyon Kurbono from the Permanent Mission of Tajikistan, and Ms. Maria Elena Sousa of Guatemala have volunteered to act as tellers. I will ask them to approach the podium once the ballots have been distributed. No. The conference officers will now distribute the ballot papers. The 7 candidates nominated are the following in alphabetical order according to candidate's last name. Herisorado Adriamanantena from Madagascar, Saidu Dogon Gida from Niger, Maria Guvanelli from Greece, Dalia Leinarte from Lithuania, Marius Rusumo from Burundi, Fouad Zarbiev from Azerbaijan, and Gentian Zibari of Albania. Once you receive the ballot paper, you're kindly requested to place an X at the left-hand side of the name of the candidate you wish to be elected. As this is an election to fill one vacant seat, ballot papers may contain a vote for one candidate only. Votes for more than one candidate will invalidate the ballot paper. Blank ballot papers will be considered abstentions. If a ballot paper contains any notation other than a vote in favor of a specific candidate whose name appears on the ballot paper, those notations will be disregarded. Other than to cast their ballots, all representatives should remain seated during the meeting. No photography will be allowed during the balloting. Will the tellers please join the conference officers at the podium? The conference officers and tellers will now collect the ballot papers. Have voter representatives handed in their ballot papers? Could you press your mic?
Sorry, I have not received my ballot sheet yet.
You haven't received your ballot sheet?
No.
He just arrived, I assume. Can somebody, can you come to the podium and take your ballot sheet? Just come to the podium and take your ballot sheet. Thank you. Have all representatives now handed in their ballot papers? It seems to be the case. Voting is now closed. No more ballot papers will be accepted. I now invite the tellers to leave the room in order to proceed with the counting of the votes. While the tellers are counting the votes, in the interest of time, I propose to proceed to item 6 of the agenda, other matters. And under this item, are there any delegations wishing to make statements under this item? I see no requests for the floor. The meeting will be suspended while the votes are counted. We will resume at 4 o'clock, so don't go too far, in 25 minutes, in order to announce the results and continue with a second round of voting if required. Please return here at 4 o'clock sharp, as voting will resume as soon as quorum is reached, should there be the need for a second round. The meeting is suspended until 4 p.m. Colleagues, before reading out the results, we're waiting for the ballot papers for the second round to be printed. That's why it's taking a bit of time. Just be prepared mentally for a second round. I won't keep you in suspense. I'll resume the meeting while we're still waiting for the ballot papers, but at least I'll read the results. The meeting is resumed. The results are as follows. Number of ballot papers cast, 155. Number of invalid ballots, 0. Number of valid ballots, 155. Abstentions, 2. Number of representatives present and voting, 153. Required majority, 77. Numbers of votes obtained. Mr. Herizo Rado Andriamanantena, Madagascar, 13. Mr. Seydou Dogon Gida from Niger, 10. Ms. Maria Guvanelli from Greece, 25. Ms. Dalia Leinarte from Lithuania, 45. Mr. Marius Rusumo from Burundi, 12. Mr. Fouad Zarbiev of Azerbaijan, 32. Mr. Gentian Ziberi of Albania, 16. Since we have not filled the position in the first ballot, I refer you to Rule 15 of the Rules of Procedure of the Meeting of States Parties, which provides that if the number of candidates obtaining an absolute majority of the votes of the representatives of states parties present and voting is less than a number of persons to be elected, there shall be additional ballots to fill the remaining places, the voting being restricted to the candidates obtaining the largest numbers of votes in the previous ballot to a number not more than twice the places remaining to be filled, provided that after the third inconclusive ballot, votes may be cast for any eligible nominee. A second ballot is required to elect one member of the committee. The ballot will be restricted to the following two candidates: Ms. Dalia Leinarte of Lithuania and Mr. Fouad Zarbiev of Azerbaijan. So now we'll have to wait for the ballot papers to be distributed, and then we can proceed with the vote. All right, so now the conference officers will distribute the ballot papers. Once you receive your ballot paper, you're kindly requested to place an X at the left-hand side of the name of the candidate you wish to be elected. Ballot papers containing more than one vote will be considered invalid. Blank ballot papers will be considered abstentions. If a ballot contains any notation other than a vote in favor of a specific candidate whose name appears on the ballot paper, those notations will be disregarded. Other than to cast their ballots, all representatives should remain seated during the meeting. No photography will be allowed during the balloting. Have all representatives received a ballot paper? If any representative has not received a ballot paper, please make yourself known to the conference officers. Can I ask all tellers once again to come to the podium? The conference officers and tellers will now collect the ballot papers. Please proceed with collecting the ballot papers. Have all representatives cast their ballots? It seems to be the case. If so, voting is now closed. No more ballot papers will be accepted. And I now invite the tellers to leave the room in order to proceed with the counting of the votes. The meeting will now be suspended for 15 minutes. So 10 to 5, please be back. The meeting is suspended. For once, we are right on time, so please take your seats. The meeting is resumed. The results are as follows. Number of ballots cast, 153. Number of invalid ballots, 0. Number of valid ballots, 153. Abstentions, 2. Number of representatives present and voting, 151. Required majority, 76. Number of votes obtained, Ms. Dalia Leinarte of Lithuania, 79. Mr. Fuat Zarbiev of Azerbaijan, 72. Having obtained the required majority and the largest number of votes, I declare Ms. Dalia Leinarte of Lithuania elected member of the Human Rights Committee for a term expiring on 31st December 2026. I wish to congratulate Ms. Dalia Leinarte. This concludes the business of the 41st meeting of the states parties. I would like to congratulate the elected member of the committee once again, and I would like to thank all tellers as well as the vice chairperson for stepping in to make this meeting possible. I declare closed the 41st meeting of states parties to the International Covenant of Civil and Political Rights. Meeting is adjourned.